Muy buenas noches a todas las personas que se conectan a esta sesión informativa de Colfuturo con la Universidad de Waikato. Mi nombre es Luisa Ayala, hago parte del equipo de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales de Colfuturo y los estaré acompañando en esta sesión junto con Margaret Anderson, quien nos contará sobre la oferta académica de la universidad, requisitos de admisión, fuentes de financiación y demás información relevante para quienes planean estudiar un posgrado en el exterior. Tengan en cuenta que tenemos un convenio con la universidad que ofrece un descuento del 30% en el valor de la matrícula para beneficiarios en programas de maestrías y para estudiantes de doctorado un descuento del 100% siempre y cuando cumplan con los requisitos para Domestic Fee Status. Tengan en cuenta que para acceder a este beneficio deben postularse al programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo en primer lugar. Una vez son seleccionados es que podrán recibir este beneficio de nuestro acuerdo. Bueno, y sin más introducción, thank you, Margaret, for being here today. You can start your presentation.
Kia ora, Lisa. Thank you very much. Ko Margaret Anderson, toku ingoa no Hamilton, New Zealand aho. So my name is Margaret Anderson and I am from Hamilton in New Zealand. And it is my pleasure today to be able to talk to you about the University of Waikato, which is based in Hamilton in the North Island of New Zealand. So first of all, I wanted to talk just very briefly about why you might choose New Zealand as your study destination. We know that that students have amazing choice of countries where they would like to study. So I thought I'd just run through a few brief ideas about why New Zealand is a great place to study. First of all, the quality of the education in New Zealand is very high. So we have 8 state universities. So these universities are all owned by the government. We don't have any private universities. And all of them are ranked quite highly in the various different types of ranking systems in New Zealand. So all the universities in New Zealand are in the top 450 universities under the QS ranking, for example. New Zealand is a very safe country and it is regularly appearing in the top 5 of the Global Peace Index. And currently we sit at number 4, but have been as high as number 2. So very peaceful. Population of New Zealand is about 5 million people, very diverse, very multicultural, and very welcoming areas, a very welcoming community too. So the lifestyle here is very easygoing. Kiwis, I think, globally have a reputation as being welcoming, friendly, quite laid back, quite an easygoing people. And as I mentioned, multicultural and very welcoming of international students and new migrants. And one positive for people who might think about staying in New Zealand, unemployment in New Zealand is quite low, which means employability is very high in New Zealand. There are quite a few jobs for graduates, if that is something that people are thinking about doing in the future. So now just moving on to talking about the area that we live in and where the university is based. I have a map there of New Zealand. The major port of entry into New Zealand is through Auckland. A lot of people know about Auckland, and a lot of people pass through Auckland from South America on their way to Australia, for example. We are not in Auckland. We are based 1.5 hours south of Auckland in a city called Hamilton. We also have a second campus, which is in the other area that's noted on the map in a city called Tauranga. And that is where we have a second campus and have been based since 2019. So Hamilton, as I mentioned, which is where our main campus is the 4th largest city in New Zealand and is growing quite rapidly. It's very well known for its beautiful gardens, wonderful food in New Zealand. Obviously, we produce all of our own produce, so it's very fresh. And we have made a real effort to make Hamilton quite a lively place to be. There's lots of colour, lots of colourful artwork. Hamilton is slightly more affordable to live in than places like Auckland and Wellington, for example, simply because fewer people here, less demand on things like rental properties. So when you do a comparison with the bigger cities, it comes out a little bit cheaper. But the beautiful thing about Hamilton is that even though it is not in the major city centre, it's very, very close. And it's also amazingly close to lots of wonderful attractions that are around the region. And I have some photos of those coming up, and I'll talk about those when we come to them. The university campus itself is a very short distance from the city centre. So in this image, you can see there is a river running through the middle of Hamilton. That is the Waikato River. And so that is where the university gets its name from, the river, and from the region. And Waikato is a Māori name, Māori being the Indigenous people of New Zealand, and it means fast moving water. So this is our Hamilton campus. This is an aerial shot. We have a large garden campus, which is really, really lovely this time of the year. We have 65 hectares, and you can see there that there's lakes, there's lots of open spaces, lots of greenery, so it's a really pleasant place to be. And we have a lot of on-campus accommodation here as well, which I'll talk about a bit more further in the presentation. This is just a shot from the student area looking back at some of the main buildings on campus. One of the things that we've tried to do is incorporate local art from the Indigenous, from an Indigenous art association. So you can see that that really picks up the campus and makes it a lot more interesting to be. So it would have been nice if we'd got some more people in there. I talked a little bit about Hamilton is an amazing place to be based, to then go and have a look at some of the awesome sites around New Zealand. Here we have two images of a place called the Waitomo Glowworm Caves. This is a wonderful natural feature really close by to the university, where people can go underground, visit some caves, and see this natural phenomena of glowworms. Some of the things that happen in the city, this is an amazing hot air balloon festival that happens in March every year. This is actually based at the university, but I believe they're moving that to another place next year. But you can see really colourful, and what this slide is actually about is there in the background there's music playing, and all the balloons lighting up in sequence with the music. So it's actually a really fun day. Kids come, there's food carts. It's just a really fun day for everybody. Now, one of the amazing things about New Zealand is that you are never more than 120 kilometres away from the beach. So here in Hamilton, we're 45 kilometres away from an amazing surf beach in a little town called Raglan. It has one of the best left-hand break surf beaches in the world, and we get lots of people coming to enjoy that. I mentioned we had a second campus, and that is in a city called Tauranga. This is more of a city campus, so that is our feature building. We built this and opened it in 2019. So Tauranga, where our second campus is based, is the 5th largest city in New Zealand, and it's quite spectacular, I have to say. It's a port city, so lots and lots of business going in and out of there, but it's based right on the coast. So you can see here, there's this wonderful beach space, and it really lends itself to study in the marine area, marine science, which the University of Waikato has a strength for. It's about an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes from our main campus, and we provide a free shuttle service between the two campuses, so that if students are studying in both spaces, it's very easy to get between the two. Most of the programs in Tauranga are actually undergraduate qualifications, but we do have a growing number of postgraduate qualifications there as well. Here's some cool images from what you can do over in Tauranga. Obviously based right on the beach, there's amazing things like going out on the water and just seeing some of the natural wildlife that is passing by. So we've got some orca whales and some dolphins there. Pretty cool. One of the other things about Tauranga and the area that it is based is that the climate there is amazing, and it's where we grow a lot of our produce. So here we've got someone holding up a kiwi fruit, and we also have an image there of avocado. So there's lots of this amazing produce, but that also really lends itself to some of the research that the university is doing, which I mentioned a wee bit further into the presentation. So the university itself, spoken about an environment. Who are we and what are we like? So we're not the largest university in New Zealand. We're actually the second smallest, but there are some very cool things that come from being a smaller institution. So pre-COVID, we had about 13,000 students, and about 2,500 of those were international students. Though not all are on our campus here in New Zealand. We have students who are actually studying in other parts of the world as well. Some of the facilities that we have really belie the size of the university. We have New Zealand's largest supercomputer, and we are also home to the first Institute of Artificial Intelligence, and we set up the first cybersecurity. So the University of Waikato is actually very strong in computer science and in information technology. We, like other many universities in New Zealand and around the world really, do have a strong focus on sustainability, and I have a cool ranking fact for you in another slide. But I mentioned that the coastal location in Tauranga lends itself to being able to do a lot of research around marine science, around the biodiversity in marine science situations. We also teach aquaculture. We have a cultural research facility, and we have offered the first Bachelor of Climate Change. But we are a diverse, comprehensive university, so we also teach in business, in the arts, we teach in engineering, health science, growing health science programs, and sport and human performance as well, and have a high performance centre in Tauranga as well. So we all like to talk about rankings. It's more important to some people than others, but it is a way of how we can distinguish ourselves. So the University of Waikato is currently ranked 250 in the QS ranking, Global University Rankings. We're very proud of that, and given our size and our location, we think that that's an amazing achievement. In that same ranking, we also have a very, very high position for research citations. So based on the number of citations that our staff are doing per capita, we're producing a significant amount and really are ahead of the game with the other universities there. I mentioned that we have business school. Our business school is Triple Crown. So we have the 3 key accreditations that are necessary for that, and which puts us in the top 1% of business schools in the world. And under the Times Higher Education ranking, we carry a ranking of 2nd in New Zealand for business and economics. And then I was talking about sustainability. So that's the final one on this slide, ranked 92nd in the world in the Times Higher Education Impact rankings in 2023-24. One of the key, key things that we talk about when we're talking about our programs is we are trying to ensure that the students we are graduating from the university are work ready, and that's an attempt to make sure that the theory that we're teaching students is also taught to students in a way that they can apply it in a practical sense. So we try and make sure that all of our undergraduate students have some sort of work placement, an internship, or they do a project that has some sort of relevance in a work environment. And we have quite a few master's programs that also have internships or work placements incorporated into them. This is a list of the faculties that we have at the university. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this shows the comprehensive nature of the university. One thing that's not captured here is the university's bid to have the 3rd medical school in New Zealand, and that's quite a big deal. It's not in the bank, but it's something that we're working towards. And as part of that, we're developing a significant number of health-related programs in the future. So we now have a Master of Nursing Practice. We will soon have a Master of Midwifery. We will have a Master of Pharmacy Studies. We are redeveloping our health programs just to align ourselves with that very, very important area of health studies going forward. Now, this is a video that I'm going to play to you, hopefully, which talks about the research at the University of Waikato.
In a world full of noise, there is a quiet hum, the hum of people looking at the big stuff in great detail. At the University of Waikato, we're proud of our researchers tackling the big stuff head on, together. Because together we are mighty and our mahi goes far. Together we can see possibility in a world that is gasping, grasping and demanding action now. Together we can find calm in the chaos, to recalibrate and challenge everything we thought we knew, to dig deep and find solutions that will stick, to help us build a fairer world, a cleaner planet, and keep us tracking towards the goals that really matter with an open mind to new perspectives. So here's to the big thinkers and their brave, quiet work, building a tomorrow full of hope.
There's actually a few more videos there about research, but we don't have time to show you them all. But if you jump onto the University of Waikato YouTube channel, you'll be able to view some more videos that we have there that are about specific types of research that we have at the university. But in terms of research institutes and area of expertise within the university, I have a list here of some of the research institutes that we have that just demonstrate the areas that we're focusing on. So environmental research is really important in New Zealand and something that New Zealand universities are very good at. The Institute of Professional Learning is around education. New Zealand as a whole has a good reputation for education, particularly in the primary area and early childhood in New Zealand, and we have quite a few students come to us studying for that. Population research, business research, and I mentioned previously artificial intelligence, which is very topical at the moment. Kotahi research, so Kotahi is around transport. So we have a transport research centre, and we also have security and crime science. As I mentioned, we have the first masters in cybersecurity and cybersecurity lab, and another educational research centre there as well. Apologies. This slide seems to have got a little bit off track. So this is just talking now about the Kolfutura scholarships that we offer, and I think Louisa might have talked about that a little bit in her introduction. So we do a 30% discount on master's programs and 100% discount on the tuition fee for PhDs. So the application process for coming to the University of Waikato, we have a separate process for PhDs and for masters, and apologies, the link of that has dropped off. So we have a process where students can apply for our master's programs directly through our application portal. We require the usual application documentation, so transcripts, English language, and that's a process that goes through our admissions team. But for PhDs, it is a slightly different process. We do require our students to reach out to potential supervisors or to perhaps search our PhD opportunity website to secure pre-agreement from a supervisor that that supervisor will take a student on. So if you come to the university website, the things to do are to search on staff profiles. That will show you the names of all the academics in the university, and then you can keyword search through that to find the names of academics who are researching in your area of interest. And the great thing about that staff profile is that it also lists the current supervision responsibilities of a potential supervisor. So if you can see somebody who's perhaps only supervising 1 or 2 people, they definitely have the capacity to take some more students on. If a supervisor has maybe 6 ongoing supervision projects, then it's unlikely that they have capacity. So most of our academics are expected to have up to 6 PhD students at any one time. So you need to reach out to them, have a conversation with them, Obviously, if they're going to be your supervisor, it's important that you set up a relationship and a rapport quite early. We have a process where you do need to get agreement and an invitation to apply from a potential supervisor. Then it's a matter of process of going through the application process. After that, it's quite straightforward, preparing the relevant documentation and applying. And we do require our students to have an IELTS of 6.5. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the the master's qualifications that we have. We have a very popular Master of Management, which is in supply chain management. Next to the university is an inland port. So I talked about Hamilton, I talked about Tauranga being a port city, and obviously that's goods coming in by sea. But we also have an inland port being built in Hamilton, and it's perfect for students who want to have a major in supply chain. It's worked really, really well for our students. This is a conversion program, so actually students aren't required to have a background in business. We also have a Master of Information Technology, and I've mentioned that this is a real strength of the university. This program can be taken by students who have absolutely no background in computer science or information technology, as well as students who have a background. So the duration dictates, the experience dictates the duration of the program for students. And there's information there on the entry requirements. This is actually a qualification that is awarded jointly with the University of Auckland. It's taught through a joint research school, joint graduate school with the University of Auckland. I mentioned earlier that I loop back to accommodation. So we have a lot of on-campus accommodation. We have 4 residential colleges. And then we also have quite a lot of accommodation that is really well suited to postgraduate and PhD students. So we have studio apartments on campus, and we also have sort of like tiny houses where students share accommodation with other students. And we are in a suburban area, so there's a lot of private accommodation around where we are too. In the residential accommodation, students can choose to have fully catered, which is all of their meals provided, or to be self-catered. And that's a very, very popular option actually with students. So it means that they're able to be supported in the university residential college environment, but they have the freedom to choose their own meals and to cook their own food. Other accommodation options, we have homestay if that is something that suits students. And then, as I mentioned, renting. For PhD students, we don't have family accommodation. So private rental properties is really the option for PhD students. And we're able to provide resource and information on where to go to find accommodation. Flatting is kind of a bit of a unique New Zealand term, I think. That is when students rent a house with other students and they share all the expenses themselves. So I've just come to the end of my presentation. These are all the ways you can contact the university and some of our socials. I see that we have not updated Twitter to X, apologies to Elon Musk, but you can find lots of really good information about the university in all of these different places. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation, and happy to take questions now.
Thank you very much, Margaret. It was amazing. I think that one question could be, if you could remind, please, what are the requirements for the English tests?
Oh, sure, no problem. So for our postgraduate programs, we do require an IELTS of 6.5 or equivalent. For undergraduate, it's a 6. Obviously, that's not super relevant for your audience, but it's an IELTS of 6.5. We do have our own pre-degree college on campus, which is part of the university. So we teach academic English for any students who might require some English preparation.
Perfect. Can students work on campus?
So they can, and a lot of our PhD students do that. So I talked about PhD opportunities. Actually, I should have elaborated on that a little bit more. So on our website, we have a page where academics who are looking for PhD students will post information about their research projects, and a lot of PhD students actually do end up working for so they might be doing their PhD, but they might actually be working as a research assistant. So there's opportunities there to work on campus. And always there's opportunities around Hamilton for students to pick up part-time study as well. So in New Zealand, students are allowed to work coursework students are allowed to work 20 hours a week during the term, and PhD students are allowed to, those students are allowed to work full-time through the breaks, the breaks from teaching. I'm not sure. I think that PhD students might be able to work a bit longer than the coursework students, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Sorry.
Thank you, Margaret. We have a question from Louisa. She says, does the university offers tissue engineering, generative medicine, or biomedical engineering masters related?
What was the first engineering version she talked about?
She said tissue engineering. I don't know.
No, I don't recognize that. We have a Master of Engineering program, which is actually quite popular at the moment, and it's a research degree, primarily a research degree. I would have to say, though, that none of those particular specializations spring to mind. We do engineering in the more less biomedical areas. So we do civil, mechanical, mechatronics, software engineering. Not so much. I mean, that's a great question. And hopefully, as we build our capacity in the biomedical sciences in preparation to hopefully becoming a medical school, we will build capacity in that. So biomedical science, probably. Biomedical engineering, not so sure, probably not. I would be honest and say probably not.
Okay, we have a question from Maria Eugenia. She says, thank you so much. About the MBA, one of the requirements could be having work experience in management.
Kia ora, thank you for that question. Always a good one. So yes, it is. We do have an MBA, and it is like other MBAs in that it requires work experience. But what we also have is another program called a Master of Business Management, and I suspect that I might have flicked over that slide, to be honest, because it was loading very slowly, so I think I got a bit happy. So we have a Master of Business Management, which is structured just the same as an MBA. So it's for people who perhaps don't have a business background, who are in managerial roles or interested in managerial roles. And it teaches a very similar type of subjects that an MBA teaches, but it doesn't have a requirement for any work experience. The MBA, if my information is correct, was really developed for engineers, for example, who found themselves in managerial roles and really needed to try and back up that on-the-ground experience that they were getting with a qualification and with some formal training. So more of a retrospective training, I guess, for existing managers, but our program is for people who have a work experience if they'd like, but also for people who intend to become managers, who might have an undergraduate degree in science, engineering, arts, but want to move into management in those spaces. So it teaches students about human resource management, organizational change, finance, marketing, accounting, just the same as an MBA does, but it doesn't require work experience.
Perfect. We have a couple of questions from our social media. So, can students do an internship during the master's program?
So some of those master's programs do have internships. So for example, the Master of Information Technology has an internship and it is paid. So the students are able to earn. It comes in the form of a scholarship. So the students are paid for that. Master of Management has an internship. We have a Master of Digital Business that also has an internship. And the MBM program that I just spoke about has a work placement project. So many do, not all, but many do have some sort of work experience attached to it.
Okay, what makes a strong candidate for programs in Waikato?
I think a strong PhD candidate obviously is somebody who has who understands what a PhD involves, that it's 3, possibly 4 years of intensive research and writing. Someone who is prepared, so has thought about what their area of interest is, can articulate their research proposal quite well, and who does have and who has a good grasp of English as well. It's just so important. It really makes life so much easier. For the other programs, we're not a top university, and I think one of the really nice things about my university is it's a university that is accepting of everybody. So our motto is Ko te tangata, which is te reo for the people. So we are very welcoming to anybody and everybody who would like to come and have an experience at the University of Waikato in New Zealand.
Okay, we have a question from Lucas. He's asking, is there a career related to a hardware engineering or embedded systems engineering?
Sure, Luca, that is a super question. And if I was an engineer, I'm sure I would be able to answer that really easily, but I'm not. I have to confess, I don't know the answer to that because that's sort of beyond my area of expertise. But if you just trying to think how you can find information about that. Perhaps, you're welcome to contact me and I can help you find the answer to that question, or maybe have a look on our website. We often provide information on career opportunities, particularly on the qualification pages. So if you go to the Master of Engineering, it'll talk about some of the career opportunities there. But apologies, you've got me there.
Are there supplementary admissions requirements such as an essay, motivational letter, interview, or portfolio?
That is, in general, no, but there are always exceptions. So, for example, if you're applying for a design degree, you would need to provide a portfolio for something like that. But in general, our arts degrees, business degrees, science degrees, there's no requirement to provide anything extra. We generally are looking for the academic background of a student and their English language, but just bear in mind that some programs are different. Another example would be Master of Nursing Practice and Masters in Teaching programs. So those qualifications, we have additional entry requirements or application process requirements in the form of police checks, international police checks, and things like needing to have done a first aid course, for example, for the Master of Nursing Practice. It's very specific to the individual qualification.
Perfect. When candidates should start their admission preparation?
So the sooner the better, really. When students apply to us, there are different ways that an application can be processed, which dictates the amount of time that it takes. So some of our master's programs, our admissions team can can do the assessment, but some have to go to a division. And for the PhD programs, really the work is done up front by communicating with the PhD potential supervisor. And, they're busy people, so you have to be a little bit patient. But you're more than welcome to contact our Graduate School of Research if you don't get a response. Generally, we would say to a student that a minimum of 6 months, really, between when you start to think about it and when you might come on campus. If we look at our data, it tells us that on average, students spend about 11 or 12 months from the beginning of their journey to when they come to New Zealand. The biggest factor, and one over which we don't have any control, is the time it takes to process a student visa. And that can take, it takes anywhere between 1 month and 4 months, unfortunately. Hopefully, they say that they can process the majority of students in a couple of months, about 90%, but sometimes students don't go through as quickly and it can take longer. So if you're in a hurry, 6 months is the minimum, but really it's such an important decision and you really want to give yourself as much time as possible.
Thank you. We have another question here. I am interested in pursuing a doctorate in international business. Is there a line of research on trade relations between Latin America and New Zealand at the University of Waikato?
That's very, very specific. And so the way to answer that is to go into our staff profile section and do a search on those keywords. I know that there are a few academics in the business school who are from Latin America, from Brazil, I believe. So chances are that their line of research is going to be focused on something like that, but I don't know off the top of my head. So the thing to do is to go to that staff profile. It's a database, basically. It's a searchable database, and go in there and have a look and see what their areas of expertise are.
When candidates need to apply?
So if we're talking about PhD candidates, PhD students can start anytime they like. It comes down to the timing that a candidate agrees with their supervisor. So we start our students at the beginning of each month. So we used to have a batch process, we don't anymore. So that means students can apply at any time they like. For a student who is studying a coursework program, so a coursework master's or a research master's, those programs start in our intakes. So we have an intake at the end of February and we have an intake in the second week of July. We have a summer school in November, but there's a very limited number of programs. So again, I would encourage students to give themselves plenty of time ahead of an intake. Again, at least 6 months in advance. We can turn an application around quickly, but again, it's that visa processing time that we have no control over and really can make the process longer than it needs to be.
Okay, can a candidate start a master's and then change or continue their studies in a PhD?
If they have started in a master's that has a research component, then yes, they can do that.
Perfect.
But not from a coursework master's.
Oh, okay. We don't have more questions, but just to finish, could you please give one piece of advice for those who are planning to study at Waikato? So
my advice would be to perhaps talk to other students. So we have a facility on our website, like a chat function on our website, where students can come and talk to existing Waikato students. So they're not actually, we used to have a PhD student there, but he finished. So we don't have any PhD students there at the moment. But I think it would be pretty special to be able to talk to students who are at the University of Waikato now and who have gone through the journey of choosing the university, the application process, the journey of, moving countries as well. I think that would provide a really amazing insight into coming to Waikato and then understanding the experience that they have here now. And hopefully that will, that peer affirmation or hearing from other students will just add another piece to the puzzle and hopefully affirm the decision to come to Waikato. So when you come onto our website, there's a chat bot that pops up and asks if you'd like to speak to any of our students. And so if you follow that, you can speak to, not in real time, they'll get back to you as soon as they can. And we also have quite a bit of video content there, so you can see what it's like on a daily basis to be at the University of Waikato.
Well, thank you, Margaret. It was a pleasure being here with you today. And it was really amazing to hear about the University of Waikato. And with no more to add, thank you very much and have a good night here in Colombia and a good day there in New Zealand.
Kia ora, Louisa. Thank you very much for organising and for giving me the opportunity to talk about the university. I hope everyone has a lovely evening, and I'm off to spend the afternoon here in Hamilton.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.